Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing some more work to this Bobcat ZT225, and today's project is going to be changing out the blade spindles. So I have already started this project, but I'll give you a rundown of what I did and where I'm at. As everybody knows, you're going to have to remove your cutting deck. So for me, I just had to remove this spring, gave me tension, and I could pull the belts right off. If we move to the other side, you'll see I've already got the one spindle out. I had to fight it a little bit, but did come out. All I can say is I'd recommend lubing up those spindle bolts because they were pretty rusted. Obviously they must be steel. But we'll go ahead and show you how to get the other spindle off. Let's get it started. Alright, so first thing you're going to want to do to remove the spindle, we're going to close our service deck. I'm going to jack the deck up just a bit so it's easier to get at. And we're going to start by removing the blade. So much easier to do if you have a direct impact. I started doing this by hand and I'm like, there's no way. Okay, so start with that. Obviously long bolt. So that's out of the way. Put that to the side. So we're going to work on this pulley. Now, on my mower, it's a 24 mil for the bleed, and also 24 mil for the pulley. Okay, so here's where it gets a little tricky. Let me get my special tools. Now, I'm sure as most of you are aware, these pulleys are held in place with a key. So I'm going to opt to use this gear puller, but unfortunately the center punch would go right through the pulley shaft. So I found something around the shop that was just big enough to go over, but not to get in the way of the key. So I'll show you how I got this out. So, like I said, just something I found. It fits in the shaft, but it doesn't block the keyway. Just so you can see a little better. Just do it gently. You don't have to force it. Okay guys, so I've had to come up with a different plan. My gear puller was not working on this pulley, so I tried, I worked on it. What I opted to do was just to take out the bolts that are holding the entire spindle on. So I got one left. We'll get that out. Now on this side, just using a 9/16. Now I have dented the pulley all to hell, but I do have a replacement, so I wasn't too worried about it. So I'll get my little wrench in place. Got my nice handy DeWalt. Tack that onto the bolt first. Once you got your socket in place, get your impact out. Just like that. Alright, so we have all the bolts removed from the deck, holding the spindle down to the deck. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and I'm going to pry it up off the deck and we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so what I ended up doing, pry bar wasn't working. I threw a jack underneath it. And while I was jacking it up, I literally stood on the deck as I jacked it. And the whole assembly just popped right out. Not a fan of having to do it that way, but I mean, it worked. Spindle is out. There's the old beat up one. Yeah, that pulley's cooked. Okay, so next step basically is reassembly. Before I go ahead and do that, I'm going to wipe down the seating surface and I'm going to give it a quick cleanup with a wire drill, and we'll get on to the next step. Alright, so I have the deck cleaned up. I didn't take a cordless wire drill to it, but I just took some Scotch-Brite. So basically, installation is reverse of disassembly. So we got our brand new spindle, looks good. On these older Bobcats, this is a non-greasable. They call it a superior bearing system. That's fine. As long as you don't have to replace it all the time. So, went ahead and got my bolts. But what I'm going to do is I am going to apply a little bit of anti-seize on them. Just in case you got to take them off, it'll be a little bit less heavy. So on these spindles, we have 6 bolts on each side. A6. Oh, that looks pretty. It's going to take a second and torque them down. Alright, now once you get your spindle all mounted up and snug, you're on to the next step. Now as for bolt torque, I didn't see any specifications, so I basically just I snugged it up good and tight, and then I went about a half turn on each. Didn't want to over torque it, but so trying to keep our new bearings nice and clean. Now on this side, I am going to have to reuse the old pulley, but no big deal. So we'll get our keyway in place. And we'll drop our pulley in. That's a beautiful thing. Alright, so that looks good. Spins nice and easy. I would hope so, being brand new. So we'll go ahead and we'll throw in our pulley bolt. Guys, remember it is a 24 mil, and again this one doesn't have to be super tight. Just going to use this small little DeWalt. It maxes out at about roughly 100 foot-pounds. And just like that. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and we'll get our blade installed. Just obviously make sure you have it on the right way. I like to put a little anti-seize on my blade bolts, just so they come out nice and easy. So the same as the pulley bolt, it's just a 24. Obviously make sure your blade's going on the right way. Now, so unlike my old spindles, I didn't have to hold it, but that was pretty cool. But you have to hold the bottom of the spindle. Just like that. Alright, so the manual calls for about 80 foot-pounds on the blade bolt. Like I said, I'm just using a small DeWalt, so I'm a little over, about 90, 100 foot-pounds. So that is one side completely done. Let's get moved on to the next side. Okay. So our brand new pulley, or sorry, spindle, we've cleaned up the deck surface. So we're going to put that in place, and we'll get our new bolts. Okay, like I said, you don't have to, but I'm just going to put a little anti-seize on them before I drop them in. So I looked at stainless steel bolts. I planned on getting them until I seen the price. For 12 stainless steel bolts here where I live, it was going to be 36 bucks. So I got these steel ones. Alright, so we're on to our next step of assembly. Now that we have our spindle in place, mounted and snugged up, we're going to go ahead and put our keyway in and mount our pulley. So I did happen to get a brand new pulley for this one. They didn't have two in stock, so I took the one they had. Keyway in place. Look at that. Isn't that a sweet unit? Okay, so we'll get our pulley bolt. We'll mount this up. Just like that, nice and easy. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and we'll get our blade installed. Grab a little more anti-seize. Just like so. Now on this, same as the other side, 24 mil bolt. So we'll get under. Just make sure that your blade is in the correct position. You're always going to want the bend to go up. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot something. We need a spacer. So the spacer I'm referring to, on the old pulley, there's this little spacer here, goes onto the bottom of the shaft. So I'm going to reuse that. just got to torque that down with a torque wrench, and we'll get on to the next step of reinstalling the belts. Alright, so now we got our pulleys installed, our blades installed, everything's snugged up, spindles are looking good. I'll show you how everything looks now. But underneath the deck, all pretty like. Everything's good and torqued down. Looking good. So one thing you're going to want to double check is just make sure that you have proper play. I had to mess around with the washers on top. For whatever reason, I torqued them down too much and it put resistance on the pulley. So I had to mess around with the washers and get a good fit. But that seems to be spinning quite nice. Alright, so we'll get her off the jack and we'll get this belt rerouted. So you can see I have a homemade discharge sheet. It's not the best, but I mean, it does the trick. Now, just making sure you guys can see this, but so it's pretty straightforward. This is your idler, so the back of the belt is going to ride on that. So we'll start by feeding it to the outside pulleys. Just like so. Then the fun part. This spring, pretty heavy duty. It's always a good time putting it back in. So we'll hook her to our idler arm. Alright, now that we got our idler spring installed, the only thing left to do is go around, just make sure everything's good and tight. There's no binding, nothing like that, everything looks good. Go ahead and give her a good old test. So I'm going to back her off the stand and we'll fire it up and engage the PTO. But yeah, long story short, this is how I went about changing my spindles. Hopefully this helps somebody out. I'm sure other people's machines will be slightly different, but the idea is still the same. So yeah, if you like this video, like, share, subscribe. Thanks guys, see you next time.